that's one of the cuts off of Bloom, the latest album from the Anat Cohen Quartetinho. The ensemble formed around the Grammy-nominated saxophonist and clarinettist Anat Cohen and features a wide range of styles and tricks in their musical arsenal. The group will be performing this weekend at the Desautels Concert Hall with the Asper Jazz Series. Charlene Diehl is the producer of that series. Joins me once again live in the Classic 107 studios. Hello.
Hi, it's nice to be here.
These are beautiful sounds coming from this wonderful ensemble. So maybe even before we get to the Anat Cohen Quartetinho, a name I very much love.
Isn't it beautiful?
It's very fun. So for those who maybe haven't been before to the Asper Jazz Series, how would you describe the experience of these concerts?
Oh boy. Well, it's a kind of we call it like a sort of boutique series. So we do 3 big concert weekends each year, and we bring in really major talent from Canada and the US, and occasionally, last year we went from France. So it's kind of specially curated. Usually we're over at the Rady Jewish Community Center at the Bernie Theater, but this time we're down at the Desautels Concert Hall because this band is only available for one show. So we went to a hall that's twice as big.
Right.
Usually we have a Saturday, Sunday kind of split
Sure.
weekend. This time it's just a big Saturday night show.
Wow.
And I have just been in that hall a couple of times. It is so beautiful.
Yeah.
It is.
It is stunning
It's
in
stunning,
there.
and the acoustics are so lovely. I think this band is just gonna shine in there.
Absolutely. How did you come across the Anat Cohen Quartetinho? I've got to get my mind around these beautiful Portuguese words, which means little quartet, I understand, in
It does.
Portuguese.
I
How
think-
did you find this
Well,
group?
this group, I heard Anat maybe 15 years ago here as a much younger player. She's still she's a young powerhouse. And she's one of a very musical family. She often plays also with her 2 brothers. They have a group called the Three Cohens. They're all wildly talented. And the band I don't know, the thing about that whole family is that they are excellent jazz musicians, but they often also kind of venture into jazz as it's expressed in other cultures. So she's Israeli.
Yeah.
And the Quartetinho, the reason it's a Portuguese name is that the other 3 players she's playing with are Brazilian.
Right.
Some of the reviews of this band have said of her that she plays a samba like a Brazilian. You wouldn't know that she's not Brazilian, which is one of the things that's I think so interesting about her is that she kind of fits where she is, you know? So she's living and working in New York with all sorts of people. She's worked with Cuban musicians. She's worked with Israeli musicians. She's worked with American musicians. She just has kind of a capacity to be present where she is. And her talents, Nolan, are I can't even explain. She's just brilliant and exciting on all sorts of instruments. Oh. And the cool thing about this quartet is, and I think maybe one of the reasons they are so special is that they all play, and they all will play on Saturday, more than one instrument. So the pianist is also an accordionist, and the percussionist is also a vibes player, and the bass player also plays guitar. And she plays, I think she's going to be playing bass clarinet, clarinet, and maybe sax. I'm not sure if she's bringing a sax, but they all, move around to different instruments, which you can hear if you listen to the album.
Totally. That
the band keeps sort of changing texture. The musical textures change, and they're all just unreasonably talented.
Absolutely. Well, and you talk about this wide range that they demonstrate in their repertoire, influences from the Israeli folk tradition to the American songbook. They also, I was listening to this and reading more about the Quartetinho. I got to get my tongue around this word. They're quite focused on balancing tradition, as I understand it. You've got all these different folk genres and even takes on different jazz artists, like the music of Thelonious Monk, for example, but also trying to say something personal through that. Maybe you can speak to the balance that they're trying to strike here and what audiences will then take away from that experience.
So one of the things that I think is so exciting about jazz as a form is that it is always navigating between the structures and the history, because this music all happens on a very strong base of shared awareness of a history. Where does this music come from? How do the song structures work? But then every single jazz musician worth their salt is going to say something in their own, I guess they bring their own lexicon, their own style. So
Right.
an improvised solo is something you're basically making up in the moment that fits in the structure that you're working in, but that you're just inventing because you can hear it in your ear. So it's very personal. And when jazz musicians are working at a really high level, even when they're playing what is familiar, it has that little edge of, how does Anat play this?
Yeah.
How is she thinking about this song? How does this band feel about Thelonious Monk? It sounds like Monk, but it sounds like the Quartetinho,
Right.
And that's one of the things that's true when you go to any really good jazz concert. You're going to hear what is the musical signature of the group that's playing, and who's at the front of it, especially who is doing the soloing. The other thing that I really love about this art form is that everybody in the band is a leader.
Yeah.
It's an awesome.
Well, and I see that they also each write those songs, like a lot of these songs on this new record, especially.
All writers, they're all, when they're in the middle of a piece, somebody will move into a solo role, the others will step into kind of a support role, and it's quite an egalitarian structure. But then you all have to be able to hustle like crazy because you can't have dead wood in there.
Yeah, no, exactly. As you are listening to the Anat Cohen Quartetinho, again, I'll keep trying.
You're doing beautifully.
You. I'm struck by this idea of different cultures sort of mixing together within their sound, and maybe how that will resonate with Winnipeg audiences specifically.
I think this is such a joy, because we are like one of the most cosmopolitan cities that you're going to find. We have every kind of people here.
Yeah.
We have every kind of people. And what I think is so cool about this band, but also about the jazz genre in general, is that it's very inclusive. It can take and riff on pretty much anything. And it is kind of an open borders kind of music. And I think this band really exemplifies it, because people come from different cultures and they've lived in different places, but that kind of appetite for what do songs sound like?
Sure.
If they come from this place or that place. You've just already been playing Hungarian and German, and like we're accustomed to sort of a European, in classical music at least, a sort of European field. And jazz just says, okay, but there's Koreans making this music. There's beautiful Japanese jazz. There's Brazilian jazz. There's
absolutely. There's
Argentinian. There's
all these different
New
cultures.
Orleans.
Yeah,
and they just all talk to each other and get excited about. I think about the being able to make something elaborate and exciting and deep-hearted.
Yeah. Like
in that moment. It's a very in the moment kind of art form. It's also one that really benefits from an active audience. So if you are not accustomed to a jazz concert, what you will hear is that after a soloist in the middle of a song takes a solo, an audience will clap, because it's like, we hear you. Unlike if you're going to the symphony, you wait till the end of the three movements or whatever. You don't be clapping in the middle. But it's a different, sort of different courtesies in this music. And it can be a little alarming with the first time, but once you kind of get used to it and used to listening to this, you're listening for how each of the people on the stage is contributing something actively as a leader in a moment, and you recognize that. It's a very exciting, as you can tell. I'm very excited.
I love this idea of not only open borders when it comes to incorporating the music into this concert, but also open borders for invitation to engagement, perhaps is the way to look at this.
I think so, yeah.
Absolutely. This concert taking place on Saturday at 8 p.m. at the Desautels Concert Hall. We'll have more information about tickets coming up a little bit later on this morning, classic107.com, and on the Classic 107 app. Charlene Diehl, the producer of the Asper Jazz Series, thank you so much for joining us to tell us more about the Anat Cohen Quartetinho. See, by the end of the interview, we'll get it.
You got it.